Hello everybody and welcome to the Real Housewives Edit. My name is Elle and I'm here to talk about the two loves of my life, editing and housewives. Oh my gosh, you guys, we are here. We are at the scene. We are actually seeing the outcome of the to be continued from last week. I realize that every episode I post is always like behind, but that's because once the episode comes out, I watch it, then I take my notes, and then I film, and then I have to edit it, of course, for you guys, and it all takes a little bit of time. Let's all just pray to the Bravo gods that one of these days I will get screeners so that I can put out episodes like the day after the actual episode comes out. After the to be continued from last week, you know, we got all these cryptic texts between Kathy and Erika and Rinna, and here we are in the aftermath. How do you guys feel about it? I was definitely, I don't want to say let down, but I was definitely like, wow, I cannot believe they didn't get one bit of footage. I can't say I was surprised, but I was a little bit annoyed because Rinna's coming out with this whole story. I want to cover this scene because what's interesting is they don't have any footage. So they're really trying to get our attention by some editing tricks and some storytelling. And I'm just curious to see what you guys felt. Did you feel like it actually was cool watching it or what? Let's just jump right in.
Thank you.
So why is Kathy not here?
Has anyone checked her ass? We tried to go in her room, it was pitch dark, sleeping, and then she had text saying, I'm not flying back on the plane.
Well, I didn't see her when I went home to change.
She's still sleeping.
Obviously.
Kathy's not on the plane with us today because she had a breakdown at the nightclub that we were all at, that we saw.
Okay, so while Erika says that, you notice there's no music.
Kathy's not on the plane with us today because she had a breakdown at the nightclub that we were all at.
If you've watched my channel for a while now, you know the no music is to create a big contrast when they do start to bring in music. Also, it's just to kind of have like a quiet moment, give us a little bit of a lean-in moment. And then there's sort of this swell, like almost like a cymbal on a drum set.
That we saw.
And then it goes to black, and then we have this big outside view while they start talking.
Everybody knows. They do? I talked about it with Sutton on the car ride home.
Kathy was...
Okay, so just by them putting that line in...
Everybody knows. They do?
Now, I don't know when Kyle actually said that line in terms of like the narrative of this entire scene, but it works perfectly for the top of this sequence. Now, this what I would say is sort of like the Kathy sequence, if you will. Why that works in that top of that sequence is because Kyle's kind of summing it all up for us at the very start. When she says everybody knows, we as the audience go like, oh really? And now they're gonna start unfolding what everybody knows.
She's a little off. She kept asking everybody to do the conga line. And I don't think anybody wanted to do it. And the next thing I know, she's in my face.
Okay, so that conga line thing was so funny to me. Like, out of all of the things to start with, the editors chose to start with what Sutton knows. And what Sutton knows to me is a bit comical. Now, what do you guys think? Do you think that they were starting to set the tone with the conga line thing to kind of show that this is a little bit absurd? I kind of am feeling that way. Like, they could have started with more serious details, but they decided to start with Sutton. Not to mention the music is so contrasting to what she's saying. She's saying, you know, she wanted everyone to do a conga line. She was a little bit off, and the music feels so like dark. Like,
she kept asking everybody to do the conga line. And I don't think anybody wanted to do it.
Feels borderline Shady editor moment. I don't know what you guys think.
Saying that she wanted to go home, and if you don't go home with me, you are not my friend.
I saw some commotion.
Okay, then Sutton says the thing like she's like,
And if you don't go home with me, you are not my friend.
which is like a little bit more serious than the conga line thing, of course. But again, does it feel like the heaviest, darkest thing you've ever heard in your life, especially for a bunch of ladies who've been drinking all night? Kathy was already feeling kind of self-conscious about, I think, what she was wearing and all that stuff. Like, who among us has not been somewhere and been like, I want to go home right now. Like, my alarm has gone off in my head and I am ready to go. I don't know about threatening friendship, but you know, I don't know. She could have been overserved.
I was a bit overserved last night. I had so much fun though.
The other thing that they do is right after Sutton says that, they fade to black and then they fade back up on Crystal. They're gonna do this a lot through this Kathy sequence. It kind of creates more suspense, dark, like horror movie type of feel to it.
Commotion, but I didn't really see anything. And I've known Kathy for a long time, more than some of the other girls in the group. Like, how bad could the behavior been?
I ran to the bathroom.
Okay, again, so then they started with the conga line, then they went to Crystal, who's like, how bad could it be? So you guys have to kind of check into this. Like, why are the editors starting there? There's a couple reasons why. First of all, they might be setting the tone for us as an audience to kind of get some doubt. Lisa's saying all this and that she has like PTSD and she's having all these feelings, but these other ladies are like, wasn't that bad. But the other thing that they could be doing is contrast. You guessed it. Editing is so all about contrast and tone shift. So they could be starting light, like we've talked about in the past. They're starting with the light moments and maybe going to the darker. Let's watch.
And I came back and I just saw her completely raging, screaming at the girls and mostly at Kyle.
Kathy was saying that she was pissed off and that I had to leave the club right now. I was very confused because I didn't even know what happened. So I said, no, I'm not doing that. We just got here, Kathy.
Eventually, Rinna said to Kathy, come on, I'll take you home.
Okay, so now they're not only bringing in the moment of Diana saying, you know, she was going crazy, and then Kyle says she's going crazy, and then Dorit comes in to fill in some of the blanks of the actual story. She comes in and she says,
Eventually, Rinna said to Kathy, come on, I'll take you home. And then they both left.
I want you guys to check in as an audience. So far, does this story sound like, oh my gosh, like the most outlandish, crazy, raging story? No. But we do know what's coming, and we do know what Lisa says happened. Imagine if they had this amazing footage of all that stuff happening. This as a lead up would be great. You know, the lighter moments with Crystal and Sutton, and then them kind of saying like, you know, she was raging at Kyle and Kyle was like, I'm not going home with you. And like, all of that would be enough for us as an audience to go like, wow, like I can't even picture Kathy really doing that. And so let's see where they take us.
And then they both left.
We get in the Sprinter van and Kathy starts screaming about everything. And she's saying things like, I'm gonna take down.
So I just want you guys, I know I'm stopping every 10 seconds, but I want you guys to check in with, you know, Lisa's telling the story now of the Sprinter van. Do they have footage of inside the Sprinter van? No. Should they? Yes. Do they have cameras in there? I guarantee it. Still confused about this whole thing. But they have to show something, right? So they want to show an exterior of a Sprinter van driving. It's kind of giving us a little bit of storytelling, but us as the audience, we're like, okay, Bravo, give us a little bit more than just an exterior of a car driving in the snow.
Things like, I'm gonna take down NBC Bravo. I will take down this show single-handedly. I will f***ing ruin you all. What in the holy f***ing hell?
I can't even repeat what she said last
By the way, we get back to Kyle's house, and it's just the two of us. And
okay, so again, so we're like, okay, all right, so now we're just hearing Lisa say this stuff. And now she says, you know, we get back to Kyle's house. They don't want to just have the camera sit on Lisa while she's talking about this whole story. So then they're going to cut to an exterior shot of Kyle's house. Again, as us, the audience are going to be like, okay, all right, now are we going to see some stuff?
And it gets worse. She takes her glasses off, she throws them on the ground, she's jumping up and down, breaking her glasses, she's pounding the walls, and she's screaming, she made Kyle. Kathy's responsible for Kyle. And she said, I will destroy Kyle and her family, if it's the last thing I ever do.
Okay, so did anyone else feel like this was just a script from like Days of Our Lives? There's not even a picture of the broken glasses. I need to see something, like something. The last episode that I did was about trust. You know, us as an audience, we want to trust Bravo. We want to trust that obviously what they're telling us is true here, but also like they're putting this sort of suspenseful music on there. Lisa's telling the story. Everyone's given their input. Kyle said at the very beginning, you know, this is, everyone knows about it, right? They're showing the exterior of the Sprinter and we're like, okay, now we're gonna see it. Nothing. Then they're showing the exterior of Kyle's Aspen house. Now we're gonna see something. Nothing. We're only getting Lisa's voice talking. I feel for the editors because they have nothing to work with. Sometimes what I like to say with editing is it's making something out of nothing. Without some sort of creative editing, they could have had, you know, Lisa just literally sitting there telling the story, which would have been like But by showing these sort of exterior shots and jumping to what the other people are saying, it does give us a little bit of entertainment, but obviously not enough to the point where we're like, oh my gosh, this really happened.
Thing I ever do.
There's like how many? Okay, and I just real quick want to say, after she said that thing, you know, I'm going to destroy Kyle, it's the last thing I do, they leave the camera on her for a while.
If it's the last thing I ever do.
They leave a pause in there because that is for effect, hanging on her last word. But also what they're doing, I believe, as the editors, is they're telling the audience by leaving this moment, we're going to give you a moment to think. We're going to give you a moment to chew on what she just said, to think about everything that just happened in this whole Kathy sequence. Really think about it for a second. Most of the editing, you know, especially because of the time constraints that they have, they jump from scene to scene. Only time they really leave space, you know, after someone says something is when they want you to think or laugh. And here, they obviously don't want you to laugh. They want you to be thinking about this story. I think there's some hope that you'll be thinking like, wow, this is crazy. Oh my gosh, Kathy. But I do think there is that other side of it, like, let's really think about what Lisa's saying and let's really think back 2 seconds ago to see if there was any proof whatsoever.
No, nine girls and no conflict, zero chance.
You would not believe in my house with my daughters, there's actually none. So I didn't grow up like that. And my sisters, like Kim and I, were biting, digging, drawing blood.
You biting?
I used to bite and she would take claws until I was bleeding. Rinna was texting Erika a play-by-play of what was happening. And I was glancing at Erika's phone. And I was just like, I don't want to go home.
You and I should talk.
So they took all of the music out of there to make us really feel what Kyle is saying, obviously.
I was glancing at Erika's phone. And I was just like, I don't want to go home.
Erika was definitely showing her her phone. That's what friends do. Especially if it was a huge deal. Now, if it was something kind of minor, like, oh, we've seen Kathy do that stuff before and like, it's just no big deal. Like maybe she was glancing at her phone, but those words really do matter. Was that just a lie or was Erika showing it? Or was she just glancing over at her phone like, like Kathy's at it again. I think it's also kind of strange, like we're trying to pretend that Kathy has this sheen to us, like we think she's like perfect and just kind of silly and funny, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never thought that about Kathy. I think that's one of the things that endears me to her as a housewife is that she's super layered. There's like, I mean, in her first reunion, she was like crying in the reunion with Kyle. She's had like the documentary with Paris talking about how she was sent away by her mom. And I don't see her as this like perfect person like they're putting out. We haven't even really met her husband on the show. Like there's stuff that's deeper. I think like Lisa thinks that we think she's perfect and just like silly and funny, but I don't feel that way at all. I would love to hear what you guys think. I've never thought that about Kathy, but I might be totally in the minority here, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on Kathy. So write them below.
But I should talk at some point, just so I can try to figure out how to kind of rid myself of what happened last night.
If you have any tips, let me know.
Well, I'm not sure I do. Kyle is way more famous and way more successful than Kathy.
Okay, so before we get into this weird confessional, Lisa's really trying to make this a little bit more serious, I think, than it is, just as evidence here on the plane. She's saying to Kyle, like, I need some time with you so I can process what happened. And Kyle's just like,
if you have any tips, let me know.
Well, I'm not sure I do.
She's totally light. She's eating her sandwich. I think Lisa's really trying to make this into a moment, and that's one evidence right there.
Well, than Kathy Hilton's ever been. And clearly, Kathy is still holding on to anger over the agency.
I have been approached to create our own company, and it's so difficult for me to deal with that because of family.
American Woman.
I did a deal with Warner Brothers for a scripted TV show about my life growing up.
Really put Mom in such a bad light. You know, I just wouldn't do that without talking to you.
I think that it's been very hard for Kathy to have it all and then to have her sister have more.
You guys,
okay. So that was funny flashbacks to me. I hope I'm not like ruining these flashbacks for you. She's like, she's still mad about the real estate thing. Her husband is a Hilton. I think they're all right. And then the second one was American Woman. I could be wrong, but it seemed to me that Kathy's more upset about how her mother was portrayed. That wasn't a clip of her saying like, you know, you didn't include me on the deal, or like, I really wanted to be a producer, or can you make me an actress in this, or something like that. Like, she's much more just concerned about like, that was disrespectful to our mom, which I don't think has anything to do with what Lisa's saying. I think the editors were just trying to pull stuff and not trying to be shady, but to me it felt like a little bit like, these don't really match up with what Lisa's saying.
You guys, how is Kathy getting to the airport? I'm getting worried.
Don't get worried. It's not your problem.
And then they end sort of with Rinna being like, that's not your problem. As the plane is flying away, they're kind of trying to build and show that Kyle has concern about Kathy, and that, you know, no one knows where Kathy is. You know, we're not really sure like what's going on. There's mystery to this. Here's what I felt like. Kyle's demeanor was lighter than what Lisa would have hoped for. Honestly, I feel like Lisa was hoping like for some tears, and then Lisa could give her a pep talk about how she's, you know, more successful and like, don't worry about it. But to me, like, Kyle seemed totally fine. Like, she didn't even go home with her sister when her sister was raging at her. I know there's also this narrative being built that like Kyle isn't the very best sister to her sisters all the time, and I totally understand that. If you take away the music and the editing and the, you know, fades to black and the different stories and what Lisa's saying and the showing of the house and the Sprinter van and all that stuff, if this had just been a basic conversation in the plane, Kyle is like easy breezy eating her sandwich, which is actually making me super hungry watching. Mauricio's like, oh yeah, we just left her at the house, like no problems here. But Lisa is really trying to make this a moment, and we have our theories out there on why, but I'm curious what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching this. I am going to cover another scene in this episode. I feel like it was a really, really good episode. Thank you again so much for your comments. Again, let's keep them classy, shady, not mean, passive aggressive, not aggressive. Let's not talk about kids, people's looks, or people getting fired. We don't need to do that. We respect these women for putting their lives out there every week for our entertainment. If you like this video, please subscribe. And if you have any thoughts, please comment below. I am obsessed with your guys' comments. Every morning I wake up, I like go to the little YouTube app and like refresh it just to see comments. I try to respond right away. If not, I respond to everyone. So please leave a comment. I love hearing your guys' thoughts. Until next time.
Our first shot of tequila in honor of Betty White. Cheers. Cheers. There you go. There you go. Number one.